The air over the Hürtgen forest is thick with a freezing, oppressive mist. On the ground, the German 275th Infantry Division is dug in deep. These are veteran soldiers, men who have survived the Eastern Front and the meat grinder of Normandy. They are surrounded by the most formidable technology the Third Reich has left. Jagged Panthers with 88mm guns and thick sloped armor, camouflaged so perfectly they look like part of the earth itself. The silence of the woods is heavy. Suddenly, a faint rhythmic thrum begins to vibrate the air. It isn't the terrifying, soul-crushing whistle of a dive bomber or the deep, guttural growl of a radial engine. It sounds like a common farm tractor. High above the canopy, a Piper L-4 Grasshopper emerges from a cloud bank. To the uninitiated, it looks pathetic. It is a pulp airplane, tubular steel frames covered in thin, doped fabric that tears like paper. It has no armor plating to protect the pilot's legs. It has no self-sealing fuel tanks. Most importantly, it has no guns. There isn't even a mounting bracket for a single machine gun. It drifts at 70 miles per hour, so slow that a stiff headwind practically keeps it hovering in place. In the German trenches, the reaction is instantaneous and visceral. An officer, a man with a knight's cross around his neck, hears the put-put of the engine and his face drains of color. He doesn't reach for his binoculars. He screams at his men to get down, cover the steel. A young recruit, confused by the panic over such a small bird, begins to lift his Mauser rifle to take a shot. The target is so close, so slow, it would be the easiest kill of his life. But his sergeant tackles him into the freezing mud, hissing through his teeth, "If you fire, you kill us all." The terror isn't of the plane itself, it's of what the plane represents. The Germans have nicknamed it the Fenstergucker, the window peeper. From the cockpit, the pilot, a kid from Iowa who was flying crop dusters 6 months ago, looks down through a floor-to-ceiling plexiglass window. He isn't looking for a dogfight. He is looking for a discontinuity in the forest. He notices a patch of pine trees that doesn't quite match the angle of the others. He sees a faint, dark line in the snow, the track of a heavy vehicle. He pulls a folded, sweat-stained map from his flight suit and a grease pencil. He doesn't have a computer. He doesn't have GPS. He has a compass and a pair of eyes. He circles a coordinate on his map, square 4472. He picks up a heavy black radio handset. The information gap of 1944 is about to be closed. He isn't just a pilot anymore. He is the ocular nerve of an entire army. 10 miles away, tucked behind a ridge where the Germans cannot see them, are 3 battalions of 155mm long Tom artillery pieces. These guns are capable of throwing a 100-pound, high-explosive shell over the horizon with the force of a falling building. But without the boy in the fabric plane, those guns are blind. The pilot keys the mic. His voice is steady, almost bored. Fire mission, battery, center, over. The German commander in the woods below watches the plane circle. He knows the math. He knows that the moment that plane stops circling and levels out, the hand of God is coming down. He looks at his Tiger tank, the most powerful weapon on the battlefield, and realizes it is nothing more than a metal coffin. He can't run because movement creates dust. He can't shoot because muzzle flashes are beacons. The sky is vast, gray and cold. And for the German soldier, it has just become the most dangerous place on earth. Not because of the fire it holds, but because of the eyes that are watching within it. The silence of the forest is about to be shattered by a storm that no armor can stop.
The sky above the German positions remains deceptively calm, but the air is now charged with a lethal, invisible energy. The pilot of the L-4 Grasshopper, banking gently in a wide, lazy circle, has finished his calculations. He isn't just looking at the forest anymore. He is visualizing a grid. To him, the world below is no longer a landscape. It is a series of coordinates. The pilot keys his radio. Target confirmed. Concentration 102. Battalion 10 rounds. Fire for effect. 10 miles behind the American lines, the ghost gunners receive the message. This is the industrialization of death. There is no bravado here, just physics and math. The artillerymen don't see the trees or the frightened men in the trenches. They see dials, degrees, and heavy brass shells. The massive barrels of the M1 155mm long toms groan as they elevate, pointing toward the clouds. The shells leave the barrels at supersonic speeds. They arc high into the stratosphere, crossing the miles in a matter of seconds. For the German soldiers hidden in the forest below, the first sign of their doom isn't a visual one. It is the sound. It starts as a whisper, then a whistle, then a terrifying, soul-shredding scream of displaced air. The Germans call it the Eiserner Regen, the steel rain. The first shells impact. They aren't hitting randomly. Because of the pilot's precise adjustments, the shells are walking a line directly through the German motor pool. A 155mm shell doesn't just explode, it creates a vacuum of pressure that collapses lungs and shatters concrete. The perfectly camouflaged Tiger tank, the pride of the Wehrmacht, is struck directly on its thin top armor. The tank doesn't just burn, it disintegrates, its turret tossed 50 feet into the air like a discarded coin. From his seat in the clouds, the pilot watches the carnage through his binoculars. He sees the blooms of fire erupting through the canopy of trees. He keys the mic again. Correct right 50, drop 100, fire again. He is walking the fire. With a simple sentence, he moves a wall of explosions 200 yards to the left, catching a retreating column of infantry. The German soldiers, who have survived the worst the Soviets could throw at them, find themselves in a nightmare they cannot fight back against. There is no enemy to bayonet. There is no pilot to shoot down. There is only a small, puttering plane that seems to be summoning lightning from a clear sky. This was the information gap in its most brutal form. The Germans had superior tanks and better trained snipers, but the Americans had the system. The L-4 was the sensor, the radio was the processor, and the artillery was the weapon. It was the world's first real-time, high-speed kill chain. Panic begins to set in among the German ranks. Some men break cover and run, hoping to reach the safety of a deeper ravine. This is exactly what the pilot is waiting for. Every movement, every puff of exhaust from a starting engine, every frantic dash across a clearing is noted with grease pencil. The pilot is the conductor of a symphony of destruction. He switches frequencies to coordinate with another battery, bringing in white phosphorus shells. The forest begins to burn with a chemical, unquenchable fire. The German commander, huddled in a crumbling bunker, realizes the terrifying truth. The paper bird hasn't just found his position, it has revoked his right to exist on the battlefield. As the second wave of shells impact, the ground beneath the forest literally liquidates. The steel rain is now constant. The sound of the L-4's engine is drowned out by the continuous roar of the American guns, but the Germans know he is still there. He is the ghost haunting the sky, the unarmed reaper who doesn't need a scythe because he has the power to move mountains. The act ends with a view from the cockpit.
The pilot checks his fuel gauge. He is low, but he looks down one last time and sees a hidden ammunition depot beginning to cook off, sending secondary explosions ripping through the valley. He smiles thinly, adjusts his cap, and prepares to hand over the coordinates to his relief pilot. The hand of God is not yet finished.
The sun begins to dip low over the horizon, casting long skeletal shadows across the shattered remains of the valley. The Piper L-4 Grasshopper is alone in the sky, a fragile speck of gold against the deepening blue. The pilot is exhausted, his eyes strained from hours of staring through binoculars, but his mission isn't over. Suddenly, the calm is shattered. From the east, a jagged silhouette streaks across the clouds. It is a Messerschmitt Me-109, the apex predator of the Luftwaffe. Its engine, a 1,400-horsepower Daimler-Benz, screams with a predatory howl that drowns out the L-4's tiny putter. The German pilot has spotted the paper bird. To him, this isn't a battle, it's an execution. He leans into his gun sight, his 20mm cannons ready to shred the fabric wings into confetti. The L-4 pilot feels the vibration of the fighter's approach before he sees it. He doesn't panic. He knows he cannot outrun the Messerschmitt. The fighter is 5 times faster. He knows he cannot outclimb it. But he has one weapon the German doesn't: physics. As the Messerschmitt 109 dives at 400 miles per hour, the Grasshopper pilot slams his stick to the side and kicks the rudder. The L-4 doesn't just turn, it pivots in mid-air, a maneuver so tight that the German fighter, moving like a silver bullet, streaks past at a distance of only 50 feet. The German pilot pulls up hard, his G-suit inflating as he tries to bring his nose back around. The Grasshopper pilot dives for the deck. He isn't looking for an airfield, he's looking for a ditch. He levels out just 10 feet above a row of hedgerows, his wheels almost clipping the bushes. The Messerschmitt 109 dives again, but it's moving too fast. To the German pilot, the ground is a blur of green. To the L-4 pilot, the ground is a sanctuary. Every time the German lines up a shot, the Grasshopper hops over a tree or slips behind a farmhouse. The Messerschmitt 109 pilot is fighting the air itself, struggling to keep his heavy machine from stalling as he tries to slow down to the Grasshopper's bicycle speed. In a final desperate attempt to claim his kill, the German pilot pulls a turn so sharp his wings lose lift. The Messerschmitt 109 stalls, tips its nose, and plunges into the earth, erupting in a violent orange fireball. The paper bird is still flying. The unarmed scout has killed the hunter without firing a single bullet. The pilot circles the crash site once, noting the position. He doesn't feel triumph, only the cold reality of the job. He turns his nose toward a makeshift landing strip, a muddy cow pasture marked by 2 white sheets. He brings the plane in low, the fabric whistling in the wind, and touches down with a gentle bounce. As the engine coughs and dies, the silence of the countryside returns, but it is a different kind of silence now. The German army in the valley is gone. The tanks are scrap metal. The infantry is scattered or surrendered. The pilot climbs out of the cockpit. His legs are stiff. He pulls his grease pencil from his pocket and marks a final X on his map. This tiny wooden airplane, made by a company that used to build toys, had done what 1,000 bombers couldn't. It had stripped the enemy of their greatest advantage: secrecy. The legacy of the Grasshopper is written in the logs of the German High Command.
They didn't fear the P-51's guns or the B-17's bombs as much as they feared the eyes in the sky. Because once the Grasshopper saw you, the war was already over.
Mission complete. If this intel earned your respect, like and subscribe. Well done for finishing the file.